Welcome to the HMG Executive Leadership Spotlight. Here's our host, Hunter Muller.
Hello, I'm Hunter Muller, CEO and founder of HMG Strategy. I'm delighted and excited to be here with my good friend Stuart Evans. Stuart is the Distinguished Services Professor at the amazing Carnegie Mellon and heads the Integrated Innovation Institute in Silicon Valley. Stuart, great to have you on today's Spotlight. Thank you for coming on. Thank you for all your support and being such a great friend for so long.
Thank you so much, Hunter. It's a pleasure to be here. As you know, I'm just delighted to be able to work with HMG. What it's done for CIOs is quite stunning, to say the least. And I'm always here to support you and work together on some of the amazing, innovative things that you do at HMG.
Hey, Stuart, you got some amazing clients over the years. Are there any names, specific company or brand names that you can cite that would be really kind of set an interesting context for our first-time viewers?
Yeah, sure. I actually ran an innovation lab with Emirates Airline for 5 years up until 6 months ago. And we had a really exciting time working with the CIO and his CEO and the various parts of the organization. My students just loved working directly with real problems. And I taught a class on innovation and entrepreneurship, and one of the students was a PhD student in Pittsburgh, and he ended up going out there and using his computer vision drone technology to help in a cargo warehouse. And fast forward 3 years, they just finished a cargo warehouse in Dallas and Houston, and they're about to go back to Dubai to wire it all up. It was a great story, and they're wonderful people. Emirates is really a startup. It's Tim really got the thing going 30 years ago. And
Think of a better client brand logo and name in the world than Emirates. Question for you. We're unusual economic times, unusual global disruption, unusual supply chain issues. When you think of innovation, every CEO in the world wants more creativity, more innovation in their organization, and more productivity, more efficiency, new customers, new markets, reimagine, reinventing new business models, new go-to-markets. When you think of innovation and the enterprise tech leader, what do you think of most?
Well, you raised several really important points here, Hunter. One of the things my research, the book in the background's on super flexibility, this ability to adapt on the fly. And what I talk about there is that oftentimes we're confronted by what I call kaleidoscopic change, where the whole world changes overnight. Normally it's one trigger. Sometimes it's a combination of small things that just come together. This time we've had COVID, we've had inflation, we've had the supply chain, we've had the social disruption from diversity and inclusion. We've had all the sustainability stuff going on, and it's created a really unique climate where I think companies have to survive. And so oftentimes in these corrections, innovation is sidelined. And my thesis is that this is absolutely the best time to innovate, because we've been running so fast, trying to do too many things with the digital transformation. We need to spring clean those things that have not been working too well and refocus ourselves on what's going to be important in the future. So I think that innovation is the lifeblood of large organizations being able to sustain themselves. Innovation in Silicon Valley is oftentimes viewed as the corollary to corporate innovation, but since the digital transformation, every large company now is working with startups. And so the Silicon Valley model and the enterprise model are now coming together. So I think it's very exciting times, particularly for CIOs, because in my mind, because of COVID and the necessities of having to get people provisioned, CIO has become the instrument to orchestrate innovation inside the enterprise.
In times, right? So often it's the restriction of resources that creates true innovation and invention.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, you know, the old adage, necessity is the mother of invention. It really is true, because especially with large corporations, you know, one of the, like I used that example of the drone in the cargo warehouse with Emirates before. We tried 3 times to get that funded as a company doing inventory in the cargo warehouse. And the use case wasn't too compelling. When COVID hit and air cargo went crazy, we changed the pricing model from just weight of cargo to volumetric and weight. And measuring is hard to do in many cases, but for a drone with computer vision, it was really easy. And so the necessity of having to charge for volume drove the innovation to become viable. And I think we're going to see the same thing happening with this correction that's going on. Things that weren't compelling use cases before are going to change and become more important to grasp and seize the moment.
What are some other top trends that you're seeing in the enterprise that our viewers might be interested in hearing?
Well, I think one of the things that I see, which is a huge step change, and it's an evolution from where we've been with PCs, servers, networks, and cloud. The emergence of the connected edge is going to create such a new environment where, if you think about the iPhone, it connected us all up as individuals and we were able to interact together. But once the environment gets wired up with compute, then we can start to do things that we couldn't even conceive before. So the connected edge is live and well. If you look at, for example, John Deere, they bought a company in Silicon Valley about 2.5 years ago that did computer vision. They now use that technology on their weed killing devices, where the vision targets the weed and the heads spray the weed killer and kill the weed. They are saving 93% of their weed killer by doing such things. It's amazing.
Stuart, what would you say to a CIO that's thinking about developing a innovation skunkworks within the enterprise to get that whole group moving?
Well, Hunter, I'm afraid I'm probably not the best person to ask about innovation labs, because I think oftentimes they become a way of thinking you're actually innovating. Well, when you're doing POVs and testing and things like that, I think it's more important to get the business involved, just like any good CIO wants to get the business involved in new applications and things like that, and actually get champions that want to use the innovation. I think innovation is going to be driven more by the urgency of the problem. And I think one of the issues you get if you get an innovation lab is that you tend to cocoon yourself from the hard problems of the organization. So I'm not sure if that's the answer you're looking for there, but I've seen innovation labs work well. One of the things we're seeing right now is that there was a big growth in the number of corporate venture capitalists with venture groups inside of big enterprises. And the correction is really impacting that big time. So I think we need to look now at more of a DevOps type of innovation environment where the CIOs can actually test things out, keep things going, because now everybody's online. Keeping continuity is a really important thing to do. And the innovations that most companies have tend to be related, when they're an established company, tend to be related to their core business. And I think it's important to embed the innovation process in that core business.
Great advice. I love it. I agree with you 100%. You know, we often collaborate all over the world, including Silicon Valley. What else do you see in Silicon Valley right now that folks from around the world might want to hear more about or get a glimpse into what's happening now, right now, in Silicon Valley in terms of innovation?
Oh, I think I referred to computer vision before in the drone case, but I think computer vision has now become so impactful and so dominant that every company really needs to start seeing how they can use visual data to good impact. The emergence of the edge in stadiums or in retail, COVID has pushed this idea of contactless checkouts and things like that. There's huge innovations occurring in retail right now. I think the other area which I see a lot of activity is in ag tech. Applying the same techniques of data analytics that we've used in the enterprise to farming is really producing big impacts. And a friend of mine has a venture firm called First Course Capital that's investing in these things right now. And Peter and the gang are doing really well. But I think data is really so essential for all of the analytics that we need to do that people have tried time and time again to get their data fabric right so they can do different things. But when we go to the connected edge, we're going to see a logarithmic increase in data. So I think we've got to, there are many companies that are working on different ways of reducing the complexity of that data so we can do things on it. So I see the startup environment is still strong. There's still investment going on. Typically in a correction, we lose maybe 25 to 30% of the startups. And the good news about that is that it's freed up a lot of talent so that the companies that are doing well can grow organically with that talent that's been released from the fallout from the economy.
Hey, Stuart, great insights right from Silicon Valley. Thank you so much for coming on today's Spotlight. Looking forward to see you again in person.
I can't wait. It's been too long, Hunter. We look forward to the next time you're visiting Silicon Valley. And again, I applaud everything you're doing for CIOs. You put them in the boardroom. Keeping the lights on is a necessary condition. But if CIOs do that well, then their voice is listened to much more carefully now when it comes to innovation. And I think we're seeing the impact of that. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thanks, Stuart. Talk soon. Bye now.
For more information, please visit hmgstrategy.com and keep up to date by following us on our social media platforms. Thank you.